So I think we can start now. So good evening and good afternoon and good morning to all of you. Welcome to this exciting and interesting KnowEMS webinar. This one, I think, is quite unique and special. EMS is always about emergencies and drama, and then things are happening fast and decision making and stress and all of that. But this webinar will be, we will add another aspect to this, and this is the tactic issues we will discuss today, and we'll hear from 4 experts about the 4 different models of collaboration with the police in tactical EMS. So we'll understand how EMS is involved in tactical operations. And before we start, let me just introduce myself and then the project. My name is Itamar. I'm from Magen David Adom in Israel. We are the technical coordinator of the KnowEMS project. That's a wonderful project that holds many webinars in topics that are EMS related. And Michelle will tell us more about the project shortly. So Michelle, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Itamar. Let me introduce myself as well. I'm the other part of the lead of the KnowEMS project. We are doing the administrative lead. I'm from the UNITA in Germany and work there as a project coordinator. And I will quickly show you my presentation, which you should be able to see. And some of you may already heard that plenty of times if you've already been to our webinars, but I will hold it quick so you can listen to the very interesting presentations. So together in the KnowEMS project, we are plenty of partners. Some are here. And we have SFMC from France, we have APHP from France, we have SAMOPUSI from Spain, ENM from Portugal, the UNITA from Germany, DSU from Romania, and MDA from Israel. And the context and the background of this whole project was another project named No Fear. The full name is Network of Practitioners for Emergency Medical Systems and Critical Care. And the main objective have been to create a long-lasting community of practitioners interacting with a network of suppliers and academia, as it was made clear that the countries aren't connected properly, and to support quick wins and practical short-term results, and to develop some and implement a transactional dynamic portal providing fora, a catalog, a marketplace, and flexibility sorry, to address new threats. So what are we doing now? We are doing monthly webinars. This time we're doing more than 1 webinar in a month. We are doing 2, but one of the main webinar is always held on the first Thursday of every month. And we had different topics. For example, we had EMS organizations and Madrid metro bombing. We had management of burn mass incidents, emergency services, mass gatherings event. And if this sounds interesting to you, just scan the QR code on the side. Every webinar is recorded and uploaded to our YouTube channel. So if there's a topic which you might be interested in, just go on our YouTube channel and watch it. But we already have some interesting topics, but we are always looking for new interesting topics. So if you have any topic you wish to be discussed or presented, just scan this QR code and help us out to entertain you properly. And if you don't want to miss anything, we have a network, the KnowEMS network, with this QR code, and you will be informed about each webinar, get different informations about other very interesting happenings, so you don't miss anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And I really encourage you to be part of our network, because the upcoming webinars are really also interesting. So yeah, we'll be happy to have you with us. So not to waste any more time, we will start by crossing the ocean towards the United States. And we will hear now from Jeffrey Shapiro about the way tactical EMS is being done in the United States. Please, Jeff, before you start, if you can quickly present yourself, of course. And thank you for being here. Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really do appreciate it, Itmar and Chaim, for making the introduction. I think it's wonderful what KnowEMS is accomplishing. And as far as my background, I am a paramedic that works for a big medical school here in Washington, D.C. in the United States. And we are actively involved with working with many law enforcement and EMS agencies in this space of tactical and operational response to active violence, high threat, and other specialty responses. My background, I started as a firefighter paramedic. For the last about 30 years, have been working with some federal law enforcement agencies here in the United States. And I'm also very proud to say that I am one of the founders and co-chairs for the Committee for Tactical Emergency Casualty Care, which is the group that maintains and writes the standards for patient care during high threat interventions. So all that being said, what I'd like to start by saying is this is not a talk on Rescue Task Force. And Rescue Task Force is an evolution in the United States that was first brought to existence in 2009, following the need for a quicker response to certain types of emergencies like active shooters and active violence in schools. If you're familiar with the Columbine High School shooting in the United States in the 1990s, the SWAT team did respond, but patrol was there first, and they set a perimeter, and there was still active killing going on inside the school until the SWAT team arrived a significant time later. So as a result of that, law enforcement changed their response posture to active shooter and active violence incidents, and EMS also had to adjust and interact and develop an interprofessional collaborative model for not waiting for the tactical teams to arrive. And we'll discuss that moving forward. But Rescue Task Force is something that is performed by units that are on duty already. They are not limited to specialty teams, and they are rapidly deployed into various areas based on resources and threat appetite. And there are 4 models that are utilized across the United States. But going to today's topic, and that is tactical emergency medical support, or medical support for special weapons and tactics teams. In the United States, special weapons and tactics teams really came to existence in the civilian law enforcement space in the 1960s. Los Angeles Police Department is credited with establishing the first full-time SWAT team, and that process has evolved over the decades to where we are today. Discussing and reviewing the specific models of how medicine is integrated and EMS is integrated into the specialty law enforcement teams and the tactical teams really is a microcosm of what EMS looks like in the United States as a whole. And for those of you that are not aware, and I'm sure most of you are, there is no national EMS model in the United States. We have EMS that is provided by public safety entities that are part of the government structure, by private companies, by fire departments, as well as hospital-based systems. In some parts of the United States, EMS is provided by volunteers, and others, other more urban and suburban areas, it will have full-time coverage, but there is much variability across the country. And that's also the case within our SWAT medical and tactical EMS programs. Some SWAT teams will just take law enforcement officers and send them to EMS training, and they become the team medic. We have other models where the local EMS agencies, whether it's a fire department or a third service, would send personnel over to support the SWAT teams. And then we also have other models where physicians and higher level providers would also be affiliated with various teams. And I'll And I'll discuss some of those strengths and weaknesses here shortly. Some of the teams, the medics are fully integrated into the team, especially in situations and examples where the medics are also law enforcement officers. They function as team members, they move with the team. There are other models where the medics are put in a direct support role where they move forward with the team, but stage in an area just outside of the objective that brings them a little bit closer. And there are still teams that will leave their medics on the outer perimeter, and they get called up as needed based on the situation. There are still many tactical teams in the United States that rely on traditional EMS support, meaning that they will call the EMS agency for their area of operations just prior to launching a mission and just request that a standard ambulance or paramedic unit would be dispatched to support them on the outer perimeter with zero integration. There's also significant consideration of whether or not SWAT medics need to be basic life support or advanced life support providers. And of course, just like any discussion, there's going to be advantages and disadvantages to each of those models. Here's an example of how the deployments can impact the time to care and the availability of the paramedic or medic, EMT, to the team as needed. I think it's pretty common sense that the closer the person is, the less time it is going to take for them to begin life-saving interventions and the process to extract the patient towards definitive care and the higher level of care that's going to be truly necessary to impact survivals. I think it's also important to note that there are several different special weapons and tactics team levels in the United States. Our national organization, the National Tactical Officers Association, just recently, within the past year, published standards for each type of team. And you can see some of the mission sets here on the slide. You can see the levels associated with that. But it's also, I think, significant to note that not all special weapons and tactics teams and tactical assets are full-time in the United States. Even in large urban areas, those teams that are full-time can take upwards of 30 to 45 minutes to deploy as an effective unit. So there are other examples that this slide does not capture where there are rapid response teams that will act as an intermediate until the arrival of the formal or fully operational tactical team. Each one of these levels does require a medical support, requires a tactical EMS provider to be associated and active with the team. For the top tier, the tier 1 teams, they are required to have 3 TEMS providers for each deployment. Typically, they'll send 2 providers with the team to the objective and leave a 3rd provider, which if the medical director, if the tactical physician is available, it would be that individual would remain at the command post. On the tier 2 teams, they are only required to have 2 TEMS providers. At the tier 3 level, only 1 medical provider. And at the tier 4 team, there is no specific requirement to have a medical person embedded with the team. I think it's also very important to note that every single operator is required to have basic medical training based on the tenets of tactical emergency casualty care. They're also required to be outfitted with the appropriate medical equipment. At a minimum, that is an individual first aid kit equipped to deal with the immediately life-threatening injuries that are prevalent in this type of response and these types of risks. As far as the specific skills that are required of a EMS provider or a medical provider at any level to be able to work with a tactical team, there was consensus by several groups that came together as the National Tactical Initiative and Council that establish these 10 skill sets that a medical provider working with a tactical team should be proficient in. And this is an evolving list. The specifics and the particulars with each one of these core competencies also evolves with technology, but and medical knowledge, of course. But this establishes the baseline as far as closing the gap and taking what a traditional EMS provider is capable of and does, and then make them functional in that operational and tactical context. As far as who should be the provider, that is also of significant debate here in the United States. The teams that will send their SWAT officers, the police officers, and the tactical operators to get medical training and function as that provider, that is usually limited to the EMT level, which is basic life support. Certainly in initial trauma care, I think we all can appreciate that the point of wounding care is basic life support, at least in that immediate stage. The use of paramedics is also very common. We have several teams, especially at the higher level, that will utilize physician's assistants and physicians in various capacities. They all bring with it their strengths and weaknesses. And there are certainly considerations for training and competencies that need to be considered when selecting what the correct resource is for the team and what they're trying to accomplish. Another significant area of conversation here in the United States is, should the medical provider be law enforcement? And in some places they're sworn, meaning they are able to function not only as medical providers, but also as law enforcement personnel. That will have a higher level of confidence and operation security amongst the team, but you also lose their medical capacity potentially if they're not practicing in a everyday setting elsewhere. But certainly, just like the theme of the conversation, there are advantages and disadvantages to each of these models. I'm more than honored to be part of this group. Here is my contact information if anybody does want to reach out. And I do believe that we will be taking questions at the very end. So I will yield my time, and hopefully, Itmar, I stayed on track for you.
Thank you very much, Geoff. Right on time. That was very, very interesting. I think it's amazing to see how in the United States, not one states, but you see so many models and this wide variety of different ways of doing things. So that was like an interesting overview. And I'm sure that people have some questions already. So I encourage you to write down your questions in the Q&A box. You see it above. So you can just type it in there. And then when we finish all the presentations, we will get to the questions. And now I'm honored to invite Lucas Hawks-Frost. I hope I pronounced it correctly, from England, from the NHS, to talk about their tactical emergency response possibilities. Please, Lucas, the floor is yours now, and please present yourself first.
Great stuff. Thanks very much for the invitation to come today and the introduction, and thanks, Geoff, for your kicking us off so expertly. And I'm also delighted to say I'm also joined by one of my colleagues in the audience. I've noticed Piers, one of our specialist operations response team instructors. So great to see Piers, and I'm sure he'll be furiously writing me notes in the background. Yeah, lovely to be here. My name is Lucas Hawks-Frost. I'm the Associate Director for Resilience for the South East Coast Ambulance Service in England here. My background similarly is a paramedic. I'm originally Canadian from Vancouver, and spent a number of times working in a number of years working both in the UK system and more recently in Canada as the operations director in Vancouver. So I'm glad to talk through some of the kind of capabilities within the UK ambulance service, and really just to sort of set the scene a little bit. I think it's important to think a little bit about some of the UK context, the landscape within the United Kingdom in terms of emergency planning, in terms of sort of civil contingencies, has evolved a lot over the last couple of decades in the wake of a number of very large events that had really caused the system at large to think very differently about how we respond in a more sort of cogent, unified way that actually meets the needs of patients and a population, and make the most out of number of organizations and agencies that have to come together and work effectively in times of extreme stress and crisis. As we saw in the July the 7th bombing attacks in the early 2000s, and more recently Manchester Arena, and then of course in other major incidents we've seen around kind of Grenfell Tower as in more terms of sort of general emergencies in our sort of in our kind of context. So the ambulance service in the UK is considered to be a sort of central has central legislated functions for responding to emergencies of all types and planning for emergencies of all types, and we fall under the Civil Contingencies Act as our sort of central piece of legislation, and that very clearly describes our obligations to think about where our threats might lie, to put in place plans to best mitigate those things, but most importantly, to work effectively and to work effectively and to plan effectively alongside of our emergency service colleagues. In the wake of a number of kind of incidents, a number of pieces of review were undertaken. A particularly impactful review by Dr. Kevin Pollack reviewed the response to several score of incidents, and identified a number of themes that were all about how do emergency services work together effectively in these emergency settings, and found the ability to quickly kind of co-locate, to quickly develop effective situational awareness, and to be able to work in a truly interoperable way were often the sort of progenitors of challenges and limitations to the response to emergencies. So the Joint Emergency Services Interoperability Program is something that underscores all of our work across our emergency planning space, and is really the beating heart of our work in terms of kind of tactical medicine and our work alongside colleagues in the police and the security services in the UK context. And the thing that sits at the center of that is our joint decision model and the kind of key concepts that are all around co-location, using a kind of common set of processes, procedures to train together, to work together, and to be able to kind of come together effectively in often very pressurized situations. So in terms of our capabilities then, and in how we undertake that work in conjunction with colleagues in the police and security services, we divide our capabilities into a couple of kind of key areas. First one I'll talk a little bit about is our hazardous areas response team, and many of you may have sort of heard or had some awareness of our HART functions. These are nationally specified, nationally procured programs that are really truly based on the principles of interoperability. So anywhere you go in the country, the hazardous area response team will be commissioned, trained, and equipped in exactly the same way, and able to work effectively with one another at all different parts of the country, but also similarly work in conjunction with police, fire, and others as kind of core responders under the obligations of civil contingencies. The sort of key sort of motivation for bringing the HEART team into existence was, again, in the lessons learned in the sort of early 2000s at various incidents where it was identified that provision of emergency care was really not available in that kind of hot zone context, and that there were potentially patient populations who were not reachable, for some significant period of time because of either being denied either because of environmental sort of circumstantial location, but also in the context of marauding terrorist attack or other sort of intentional act that had not yet been in a scene that had not yet been secured by police or security services. So with a number of national sort of strategic interfaces, particularly with working closely and aligning closely with our counterterrorism strategy, with working with central government around the chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear agenda, and then of course the work that's happened in the wider health system around how we effectively manage mass casualty situations of all different types. The hazardous area response team was formed. Across the country, we have 16 virtually identical teams hosted by our regional ambulance services. And in our area, we have two of those teams made up of just over 110 paramedics, all paramedics who are trained, as I said before, in a very kind of consistent way, and are provided with the protective equipment and the training and the capabilities to work effectively alongside all of our responding agency partners, but in this case, from the purposes of today, particularly with the police and security services. I think, as I said, the core capabilities of HEART are very wide-reaching, and they really are a sort of highly adaptable and highly interchangeable capability that the trusts and as on a national capability point of view hold significant capabilities around CBRN and water rescue working at height, etc. But also a substantial focus on working with ballistic personal protective equipment and working alongside law enforcement. The kind of key focus of their activities in conjunction with police and security is around providing that ability to move forward truly into sort of hot zone working, being able to undertake very rapid sort of triage, treatment and extrication in that hot zone environment. And I think, with some of the lessons learned within the Manchester Arena incident and from our sort of partner organizations all around the world, being able to start promoting also the sort of self-rescue and some of the sort of early self-care by affected casualties in that hot zone, with access to equipment and medical consumables that can be brought into that hot zone environment. In addition to spontaneous incidents, a substantial amount of work by the HEART team involves supporting security operations in terms of pre-planned events, and will work closely with police in terms of public order, and working closely in a very embedded way within a public order context, but also working in terms of providing protection both to security personnel, police and security personnel within pre-planned events, the execution of high-risk operations, and also working in collaboration with various agencies at sort of high-risk situations. A recent and particularly things where multi-agencies are involved, the dismantling of drug lab apparatus, all the way through to executing high-risk warrants in the community. So highly integrated and highly kind of competent and confident in working alongside police and security. As if my colleague Piers on the call was able to speak, I'd take the moment to hand over to him. He is the living, breathing expert in the work of our specialist operations response team. the SORT team is a really, I think, an exceptional program that's run within the UK context, and really it's answering the question around how to provide a large surge of capable, confident sort of health responders at all different clinical levels in response to emergency to an emergent event. Both to provide support in terms of decontamination in a CBRN context, but also to provide capable response in the context of a marauding terrorist attack. And these personnel come from all corners of the organization. They're drawn from all clinical skill levels and undertake a significant training commitment over the course of each year, including physical competencies assessment and fitness, and a number of sort of training cycles, and are able to deploy at any time to any place in the organization in response to an emergent event, and particularly a marauding terrorist attack, using ballistic protective equipment, and able to again work very effectively in conjunction with police and security services. One of, I think, the great assets that this team brings as well is it provides huge opportunities for individual paramedics, ECSWs, and other clinical staff within our organization to participate in a really wide number of very high fidelity training opportunities in conjunction with police, in conjunction with counter-terrorist policing, in conjunction with colleagues in fire and other agencies, and it provides a substantial exposure to individuals to working in some of these incredibly difficult contexts. And as the saying goes, the time to learn to dance isn't on the night of the ball. So it gives our organization a chance to really test and exercise a number of these plans and a number of these capabilities. Just double check the time here, because I'm aware we're at 12 minutes.
2 minutes, please.
Yeah, so these individuals, as I say, work very competently within the sort of hot zone and warm zone context, and are really there to help that movement and triage of casualties, and supported by some very impressive equipment, including the provision again of nationally specified mass casualty vehicles that are consistent in their layout and equipping that can be used in any part of the country. The last sort of thing I'll just touch on is the National Interoperability Liaison Officer role that we have, the NILO, who are an extremely powerful part of our work with the police and security services. And the huge asset that they bring really are as a convener of different organizations, and able to provide those connections in very difficult scenes and situations, and able to link up the response of organizations and help sense make and help provide insights and advice in pre-planned operations as well, in conjunction with those organizations. So a substantial amount of work has gone into providing both the kind of material, but also the kind of capabilities for these teams, and a huge amount of dedication from certainly the teams I work with. So yes, and grateful for the chance to come and gush about them, and happy to answer any questions anyone might have. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Two interesting things I can take from your presentation. First thing, I think it's this wonderful sentence of working together so we can save life and reduce harm. So I think this is very important, and you just showed us so many different functions in your service that support this idea. And second thing is Mr. Pierce, that we would like to join us to the experts discussion after this webinar will end. So thank you very much for that. And we move on to Spain, to Madrid, to Carlos Torres, that will tell us about the tactic EMS team they have in SAMU Protección Civil. Please, Carlos.
Hello, good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here again, now with KnowEMS, last time was with No Fear that Michelle talked about. Let's talk about our team. This one, okay. Sorry, the bar is pissing me off. Okay, now I have it. Okay, so first of all, introduce myself. I'm Carlos Torres. I am a nurse manager right now in a hospital, but I'm also a volunteer since 2008 in SAMUR Protección Civil in Madrid, which are kind of linked, right? In Madrid, we have the civil protection and the EMS service of the city of Madrid linked in Madrid. And I'm going to talk about the DEPAS team, right? Which is DEPAS? What is us? This is our Dispositivo Especial Preventivo en Actos Antisociales, which is special preventive presence in antisocial activities. We have been working since 2008 also. In 31 of July, we started working in this kind of events, and we have evolved a lot since then, right? We are a special unit inside SAMUR, and we have a specialty inside. Okay, so we are composed of volunteer personnel. We are right now 133 volunteer personnel. Okay, we have also some public workers that are inside this team, but they are also volunteers of civil protection inside Madrid, right? We have two different kinds of operation. We have the programmed operation, which is typically like, for example, high risk football matches or this kind of thing. For example, this Saturday, we are having the final of the last match of the King's Cup, and we are expecting some kind of activity of this team in this event. But we also have some unexpected risk preventive measures like active shooters or stabbings, attacks, or whatever that makes us respond with a rapid response team. Last year, we have 91 operations, right? 0 unexpected. That was some kind of strange because we usually have like 130, 140 events per year. But this time was a little bit less. Why? Well, there is a lot of options. Different football matches, some of them are with high risk, some of them are not. Also, the political climate influence a lot these kinds of events. Maybe if it's different right or left side, it depends. It has more risk of in events or less. But we usually have for the unexpected risk 1 or 2 events per year, right? Maybe 3. But why we created this team? Because we feel and we saw that there was a lack of response from in some kind of events like this one. This is I think it's a celebration in Madrid in some kind of football match, and we found that we are lacking a really good response in these events, right? Because these events requires some special team, and we created it, right? It's the DEPAS team. What do? We give support to security, to the police in security, access control, filtering, support, zoning, these kind of things. We are also working together with firefighters, but not very close in the extinction. We help them in extinction of small fires because when you have a very big mass of people, it's very difficult to get that fire truck inside. So we have some different materials to prevent these big fires to appear, so we can control them. And of course, the health, right? To avoid injuries and further damages, we provide medical attention, evacuation to a point of assistance or whatever in these kinds of events, right? We work in these 3 pillars and we do it quite good. The security support is one of our main targets. Together with police, always we have very big events in Madrid. This one is it was the visit of the Pope some years ago. One of these helmets is me, and we have also the helmets of the police here. And it was a concentration against the religion and pro-religion. Imagine this situation. That's why we really feel that we need a team that works in this kind of situations, right? Because it's very difficult to respond together. Also, we have some masks and celebrations or whatever, right? Extended support. This is what I was talking before. See some different incidents in football matches, concentration, manifestation, rallies, whatever, and it's really difficult to get inside these places, fire trucks and firefighters. So we try to respond as soon as possible to this incident, so the fire doesn't get higher, right? If, for example, this one was in a football match that some happy participants on the party was put a flashbang inside a police car. So it was really, really difficult to accomplish this mission, right? And of course, we don't have paramedics, we are EMTs, doctors, nurses. So of course, the medical attention is our main target, right? Also to the police and to the people, both sides, we attend them. That's why we are very neutral inside this team, right? You see, we are not going very dark in the colors. We are not wearing black or blue like the police. We are very bright because we want to be seen, right? We want to that the people knows that we are here for them and for everyone, so they can have some trust in us, right? How we work, of course, specialized staff and work philosophy. Our philosophy is very clear. We always work in binomials, two people always. So one can attend the victim or whatever, and the other one can always check around, right? It's very important to have this philosophy inside. It's for our safety and the safety of the patients, right? The casualties. Always, usually behind the police, right? Always one or two step back of the police. So we are close enough to respond to the incident, but not close enough to be in a high risk, right? This is very, very important, right? And with specific equipment, right? Specific equipment. What do we have? Helmets, personal protective equipment like these jackets and vest. Also, the cars are different, and this is for fire extinguishing. This is our forestal fire extinguisher, right, to respond to these kind of fires, and a specific backpack with tourniquets, band-aids, whatever, right? The most important part is not the specific equipment. We are talking about later about the tactical equipment, but I want to talk about the training, right? This is the most important thing, right? The training. Our introducing the new people to the training is 2 weekends. 2 days in a weekend, right? 2 days, 2.5 days in a weekend, fully covered with police in the first day, and then with us. And we not only give this training, we are always in training. We need to make at least one training per year, right? And we make it in a day, fully day, and it's mandatory for all the people inside the team. You cannot belong to the team if you don't make this training per year, right? And this is some images of our trainings, right? Also, we make some trainings with police per year. We are collaborating right now with the national police and also collaborating with the local police of Madrid, which is a big police because we are a big, not so big, but we are, I think it's like 6 million people living here. So our police is very big, and they have also a special team, a tactical team inside the police. So we work also together with both of them. We made some training with a national police of the Guardia Civil also, but right now we are also working with them. And we are collaborating right now with another member of the No Fear net, is the EMS in Portugal. We are making some trainings with them, and we are starting to collaborate. Probably we make some more trainings because, we are making we are having the World Cup together, Portugal and Spain, and we expect a lot of mixed training. So some people for us go to Portugal, some people then come to Spain, so we can share and we can have people from them. We have been in Lisbon, they have been in Madrid right now, and we are starting to make some kind of intern trainings between us. Of course, our procedures and our workings are custom. We pick some things from the tactical emergency casualty care. We pick something, but we start to pick a lot of things and make our procedures internally, because it's the way to work, right? There is nothing that works for you perfectly if it's some international guide. You need to make it right in your service, right? It's very important. Some pictures for from our interventions. We have the 22M. This was a very, very big rally. Rally for Pablo Hasél was a left side manifestant who was killed, and it has a very big response in the street, right? The surround the Congress around 2015. That period was very close. Also, the COVID gave us a lot of work with the manifestation and everything. And this is the last ones that we have against the government. I want to move right now to the next part, is the tactical team out of public disorders, because we in Madrid we don't have a lot of active shooters and these kinds of incidents right now. We are lucky in this side, but it's starting to grow. So we need to develop something also to respond to these incidents. That's why we developed this tactical team. This tactical team is inside DEPAS, but it's outside DEPAS. I mean, we have this tactical team that is also with public workers, only with public workers, sorry. So we miss this part of the volunteers. We start to develop it to public workers. It's volunteer. I mean, the public workers want to be there, but we cannot put volunteers in this high kind of risk, right? That's why we develop this with public workers. The staff
Carlos,
is
2 minutes,
Yep.
please.
Okay, the staff is trained also in this kind of incident. The training is the same, and the trainings around the year are the same, but only the public workers can work there, right? And of course, we always work in this kind of thing with the tactical teams of the police. In Spain is the GEO, is the Special Operation Group of the National Police. And we work with the direct threat and indirect threat guidelines that is in the tactical emergency casualty cares, right? In the direct threat, only the tactical teams go there, right? In this kind of incident, destruction to the casualty collection point is made by them. Okay, but in the indirect threat zone is where we can go inside there. Okay, we go with them, we start some march procedures, and we stay with the triades, and we move them to the collection point where we can really play with them, right? You can see this. Was one of our trainings simulating a hostage situation inside a plane, right? With them, with a conclusions and key points. It was very quick, but it is what it is. The man who is prepared has his battle half fought. Always train as real as possible. Okay, these situations are extremely dynamic. They change a lot in minutes, in seconds. So you always need to be prepared. It's really, really important to coordinate with the law enforcement and other service. Okay, coordination is really important in the commander post. And one thing that we have learned is that work done must always be reflected, because in this kind of incidents, it's very easy that inside the battle like this, you start to do things, move patients, treat patients, but you don't reflect it anywhere. So there are some techniques, some procedures that get lost, right? But our most final conclusion is that wherever there is a patient, there must be a healthcare provider, not anyone, only a healthcare provider, protected by cops, protected by firefighters in kinds of CBRN or in fires, but there always need to be a healthcare provider, right? That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I think this final sentence is really, yeah, that's impressive. And the picture of the helmet line, police and SAMU together inside this demonstration. And I think this is really, yeah, exactly this one. So thank you very much for that. And we are going now, moving to Chaim Rafalovsky, to talk about the Magen David Adom experience, about the EMS in high-risk situations in Israel. So Chaim, present yourself, and the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Chaim Rafalowski, the Disaster Management Coordinator at Magen David Adom. Itamar, thank you for inviting me. So I'm representing the organization who doesn't have dedicated tactical EMS teams, and I will explain why in a second, just to make sure that you can all see my presentation well.
We see. Perfect.
Okay, so I will speak a little bit about the background, issues around scene management, our concepts and challenges, and at the end I will present you some work that we did in Project Nightingale. Sorry, no fear. And we developed the scene safer concept. And I will start with the two images. Anyone can shout in the chat what are the two images, not the experts, please. The participants. The two images. Where are they from? I expected some answers. Carlos, since you are the youngest one here, the images, where are they from?
Oh, I cannot really say where are. Maybe
2009, if I am correct, the siege on
a
theater in Moscow.
I was thinking about Paris.
No, it's Moscow, and allegedly the anti-terrorism units of Russia used fentanyl, and it ended with, if I recall correctly, 290 of the hostages dead. And this is, I put these images just to say, as Carlos said, we are here to save patients. This is not the result that we want to end with by the end of the day. So I'm going to talk about a very specific situation, not about everything, because you will see that Geoff spoke about the risk appetite. And the risk appetite in Magen David Adom is that we all have a flak jacket and a tactical helmet in our ambulances 24/7. And if anything happens, we will don them and go. But I want to talk about a hostage-taking situation, which is very different. And I'm talking about this because I think that we have some, at least in our understanding, some different concepts there that have to be considered. Israel is 10 million people, and we are lucky to have one national police force. We don't have local police units. So we have one national police force, and the national police force has the National Anti-Terrorism Unit, which is called the Yamam, which is one unit for the whole country, which implies, of course, issues around time of response. And every police district has SWAT teams that are available 24/7, and they would be the tier 2 that Geoff presented later, which means that they are on the field, they are ready, and if there is an active shooter or something like that, they are the ones that should intervene immediately and not wait for the SWAT teams. There are some military units that are on standby also to intervene in this kind of situations. All our intervention teams have a paramedic embedded inside the team. But, and this is the big but, it is a member of the team, which means the first and most important role of that person is that he or she are a combatant, capable of doing the fighting job, and on top of their fighting job, they are also capable of providing casualty care. They are all trained by Magen David Adom, but again, the idea is that they are not there for the casualties, they are there for the injured member of the team that needs her or his life to be saved. And that's a very important working assumption for us, The other working assumption is that when we are talking about a hostage-taking situation, the hostages will be used as a means of creating a further assault, which means they will be most probably booby-trapped or can be booby-trapped, and this is a risk that we have to consider. And the other thing is that the terrorists might use the casualties as a way of running away from the scene, and we have already seen globally cases where the terrorists changed clothing with the hostages so they could hide and run away while the hostages are being shot at. And of course, we have the risk that when they are running away, they are carrying with them firearms, explosives, etc., etc. This is why we have the model, and I will use a very police term, which is called the object. We have the object. The object is the place where the terrorists are with their hostages. And around it, the police will create something which is called the hot zone. And this is under the responsibility of the anti-terrorist unit. And if there is a need to rescue casualties from the object, it will be done by the SWAT teams. The idea is that you are working in an environment which is extremely dangerous. It is booby-trapped. There might be unexploded ordnance there. Normally it's dark. There are smoke grenades. There is a fire inside. So if you are not an extremely well-experienced police officer trained specifically for that purpose, you shouldn't be there. I would say that the parallel is that regular police officers in Israel in a hostage environment are not allowed into the hot zone either. And then there is a control area, which is the warm zone. The difference between the hot zone and the warm zone is that in the hot zone, there is this risk of shooting, explosions, etc., etc. That risk is much lower inside the warm zone, but the warm zone is still a controlled area. And all the operational procedures are taken then. So the staging area for ambulances will be in the warm zone. And this will be what you see on the screen in the moment is a very static picture that takes for hours and hours and hours and hours, because there is negotiation, there is intelligence gathering, and many other things, including the planning of the anti-terrorist unit on how are they going to breach. And then comes the critical moment when there is a breach. And there are basically two options. One is that the police officers have their surprise, managing what they are doing. We end with several terrorists which are dead and hostages that are rescued. And that's a positive outcome. Of course, sorry, the positive outcome is that the terrorists surround themselves to the law enforcement. Unfortunately, normally doesn't happen. So one is that they were successful in their breach. The other is what happened, for example, in Moscow. It happened also in Israel in 1973 in Ma'alot, and it becomes a carnage. We have a huge amount of people that are injured, severely injured, serious trauma, shooting, blast, and we need to intervene. And then in a snap, we have to set up our response. And to set up the response means that the SWAT team will bring the casualties to a point, to a checkpoint. And this is for us a critical thing. It's close to the object, close enough so casualties can be carried by hand, liters, whatever, but it's physical carrying of the casualties. But the first ones, we need police officers to make sure that these casualties are not a risk for the following chain of care. So normally we will have there SWAT police officers and bomb squad technicians that very fast will do a physical examination of patients to ensure that they are not a risk. And we will have their senior paramedics to do triage, airway management, basically recovery position, and a tourniquet if needed. Nothing more. And then the idea is that we will start sending ambulances one by one to that point, and we will upload our casualties one per team in that point. We don't have the time to start an advanced medical post. And we had enough time to bring enough ambulances to allow ourselves to say, if you are a non-ambulant patient, and we don't differentiate here between the yellow and the red, if you are non-ambulant, you will go into an ambulance, you will be loaded into the ambulance, and you go. Because in our concept, the problem that we have seen in our simulations is the fact that we create a bottleneck in that point. In the loading point becomes a horrible bottleneck because I'm a paramedic. I want to assess my patient, but the patient is lying on the ground and it's dark. I need light and and the answer is no. Load the patient, go. If you don't think you can do a proper assessment while you are riding the ambulance, no problem. Ride a kilometer, park on the side, and do a proper assessment. It's okay. It's a single patient. On the loading point, we cannot create the bottleneck. That's the most critical thing that happens because we try to do there many things. We try to do triage and assessment and taking the list of names, etc., and that becomes a chaos. We can do that because a hostage-taking situation is not a mass casualty incident, and that's the main point. It takes a long time. In our procedure, the response to a hostage-taking situation is not red lights and siren response. We have time. We have the time to call personnel from home, and they can go one by one to the scene. Two challenges that I would like to point out. First, the timing of the breach of the anti-terrorist unit is the most important thing there. How do we keep that a secret when I have 100 EMS personnel on the scene? That's our greatest challenge, I have to say. And people are, I don't know, sorry, if they're stupid or innocent or whatever. I just told my wife, watch the news. And they don't understand that part of the terrorist attack is monitoring social media and breaching into WhatsApp and Telegram and stuff like that. And it will be made public. And fortunately, since the 70s, that we had several bad terrorist hostage-taking incidents by terrorists in Israel, we haven't had it in the last years. Until October 7th, but that's another story. And so I cannot tell you that this is an operation that, even though we practice it a lot, was tested in real life. But this is the concept that we have for that. I would just like to very briefly present you the scene safer that was developed in No Fear. And it comes from the idea that I think all the paramedics in the room, and Carlos as a nurse, from day one in training, we've been told that safety comes first. And in reality, that's not always the case. we find ourselves in the midst of situations, environments that could be dangerous, could not be dangerous, we don't know. And the problem is that we don't teach our people to do a proper safety and security assessment. And I was privileged to present in Jornadas Municipales de Catástrofes of Madrid, which are a national gathering of EMS volunteers. And I asked if you are on a standby operation and you hear shooting very close to you, and the police says that the shooter ran away, what would you do? And 85% of the room said, I will ask my dispatcher. And I was like, guys, come on. Your dispatcher is sitting in a very nice, comfy room with aircon far away from you. What does the dispatcher knows better than yourself on the scene? But the answer is no, I'm asking my dispatcher. They will tell me what should I do. So we wanted to develop a set of questions, and this is the important thing. These are not answers, and this is not an algorithm. It's not a protocol. It's not a yes, no. It's what do you need to figure out before you take the decision, can I intervene, or how far should I intervene in a situation? So the scene says first stop and try to understand the situation. What do I see? What do I smell? What do I hear? What do I hear from the people around me? What is the context that I'm responding to? A family dispute is very different from a drug deal that went wrong. And it is very different from the London bombings or the Madrid attacks or the attacks in Mumbai. So listen to your radio, listen to what is going around, and try to understand what is the context. Which other services are on the scene, and what is their understanding? And for me, the amazing thing is that police officers, firefighters, and EMS people in front of the same scene, looking the same direction, have a very different description of the scene, because each and every one of us looks at different angles, but it's good because that gives us a more comprehensive understanding of the scenes. Of course, what are the numbers? Am I dealing with 5 casualties, 50 casualties, or 500? And this is always the question that we are posing to our EMTs on the field. I don't care if it's 2 or 4, it's the same. If it's 2 or 20, it's a major, major difference. And of course, how many other people are on the scene that might become casualties. And very important, we always are thinking about how I get into the scene. From the first second, you need to start thinking, how do I get out of the scene? Is that route going to be blocked by fire trucks, by private cars, by police cars? Is this my only escape route? And the moment it's blocked, I'm going to be trapped inside. And then you need to decide how secure it is. And Madrid colleagues say, in a security-related incident, it's never 100%. That's the assumption. Very good. So now we need to take the overall situation, what we call the scene, and understand that a scene has different parts of it. And if there was an explosion on one side of a square, on the other side of the square, there are casualties, which were brought there, ran away, never mind. And you can go there and start treating, and the level of risk on that side of the square is very different from where the explosion happened. And of course, what are the actions that I need to take to protect myself? Wear a helmet, wear a flak jacket, put off a small fire with my fire extinguisher, etc. And then try to estimate the situation now and how it will evolve. I have a small fire. Is the fire growing, or is it controllable and would be controlled because I hear the fire trucks very close to me? And now I have to say that at the beginning it was scene safe, And then colleagues added the R to say, no, it's not enough that I understood what is going on. I need to first report it, otherwise it is useless. And then always remember that the type of scenes that we are dealing with are changing all the time. So you need to constantly reassess and report. So thank you very much. And for the Spaniard colleagues on the call, the yellow ribbon is not for the Catalonia, it's for the freedom of the 59 hostages that are being held in Gaza. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaim. Thank you very much. Yes, it was interesting, and I think you also presented an interesting solution or approach for, like you said, EMS that does not have a unique unit for tactic interventions. So thank you. It was interesting, and you earned your extra 5 minutes for that. I would like now, before we close this webinar, to give the floor to the audience on the webinar to ask questions. And you can do this in the Q&A. And while you are typing your questions, I may start maybe with one question that I wrote down here. I have a few only. Maybe this one is for all of you, just to understand the context. Does the EMS in these units have any law enforcement or police סמכויות? Authorities, okay.
Authority or the legal power.
Thank you. Or they are only EMS, they're only for the medical part of the response. Geoff, I see that you're nodding. Maybe you want to start.
I can start. In the United States, the answer is yes to all of the above. We have models where, and to Chaim's example about the national federal teams here in the US, they are all the medical providers that are functioning on the team are, we would call them, the term here is sworn. So they are law enforcement, they are armed, they have use of force protocols so that they can take direct action against any threat. And we also have traditional EMS personnel that are non-law enforcement. We have combinations where we'll have EMS personnel who are then put through a police training program and are able to carry weapons and have use of force only for protection. So there are countless examples of all the models. And just like anything, I think it is dependent on the operating arena, the area of operations, the true threat, and various other abilities to train, competencies, and maintaining all those various requirements. They're all factors that need to be considered when making those decisions.
Okay. Again, wide variety of options there. Thank you. And for you, Carlos, I understand this is not the situation, right? This is, your guys are EMS.
Yeah, exactly. We are always 100% EMS. We don't have, our staff doesn't have weapons or nothing.
Okay. And for you, Lucas?
Yeah, very much the same. So I think anyone acting on the part of, as a health responder is very distinctly acting in that capacity alone, and we leave the responsibility for police and security operations to those agencies with that expertise, and they're really the only I think the only sort of crossover of that is obviously certain elements of police and military who would have additional clinical education, but certainly from a National Health Service point of view, it's very distinctly healthcare.
Okay, thank you. Chaim, anything to add, maybe? No.
No.
No. Okay, so I have another question, and I will start with you now, Lucas. Is your heart teams are also part of the routine responses of the NHS? Are they also respond to routine ambulance calls, or they are separate unit that responds only to these unique emergencies that you mentioned earlier?
So the heart team primarily is set up to respond to these kind of care and special circumstances. The exception being, of course, that they would go to high acuity calls, cardiac arrests, high sort of urgency calls, in the area around their base. But generally speaking, they're being utilized for not only these very sort of specialist circumstances, but also to take advantage of their specialist capabilities. They have access to special vehicles, they have access to special equipment that helps out with a large number of routine calls just that require a specialist capability. So a bit of both.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And Carlos, your teams are also doing the regular shifts in SAMU, or only part of these teams?
No, DEPAS, especially with the mass incidents and rallies and everything, is usually only for this incident, right? It's true that in the tactical part, if there is an unexpected activation, maybe the first response could be people that it's abroad the ambulances right now. So I mean, our manager has the people that it's on shift in this day that has the specialty and it's working in the daily. But if an incident of this kind appears, maybe the first response is to see, okay, this ambulance and this ambulance are with people, so we send it there and start the first, but we also make a second response with a specialist.
Okay, I see. Thank you. Okay, and now I have another question that René sent in the Q&A, so I will read it out loud. It's for Chaim, but I will ask all of you to answer this one because this is a very interesting question. Chaim, you will start. Have you had any cases, or how often did Israel, but all of you, faced cases where EMS staff has been hurt or killed at such scenes by attackers? So,
unfortunately, on October 7th, Magen David Adom ambulances were targeted and the teams were shot while they were with lights and siren. We have to understand that that for terrorists, with the idea of creating fear and trying to destabilize a society, healthcare personnel are a target. And we can have a whole philosophical discussion, but that's a reality. So we need to be very aware that we are a target. And unfortunately, globally, I hear from colleagues that it is also a target for criminals, not just for terrorists. And I recently heard, it was told as a joke, but obviously it's horrible. In one of the countries, if you hire a sicario, a murderer for rent, and the sicario doesn't fulfill his task, you are allowed to kill the sicario. So they would do whatever they can to kill the target. So in one case, they stopped the ambulance. And I was told the story because the colleague was saying, look how much respect we have from the criminals. And the criminals told the ambulance crew, you get off the ambulance. And when they asked why, they said, because we are going to kill the person in the ambulance. And we are going to do that with you or without you, but we don't want to hurt you. So please get off the ambulance so we can shoot him. And you are not hurt. And they put them aside and they shot the person in the ambulance. But this is a reality also for criminals. And this is an unfortunate reality that we are living in.
And Geoff, your reflection maybe on that question, maybe specifically for these teams that are both tactic and in the EMS, maybe you have something to say about that.
So on KnowEMS story that he just told, it made me reflect very early in my career when I was much younger and had no family to think about. I responded to a shooting here in Washington, D.C. It wasn't a Sicario, but it was criminal activity. And unbeknownst to us at the time, one of the bad actors was in custody of the police. We didn't know, and this goes to the point of the scene is never 100% secure and situational awareness. There was a partner for one of the criminals that followed us to the hospital, met us at the hospital, and threatened to kill our patient. Similar statement, you could either get out or I'll kill you too. Fortunately, we were rescued by our police department that was there within seconds once we gave the particular code word that we were in trouble. So it ended favorably. But to the question as a whole, yes, recently, within the past year, there was a medic that was supporting a SWAT team in Minnesota, which is one of our states in the middle of the country up north on the border with Canada. And they were it was a direct action mission, and the medic was moving with the team and did get fatally wounded, unsurvivable injuries. It happens infrequently, but it does happen, especially in the tactical world. There's been no incidents of EMS or medical personnel being injured responding to active violence, but there has been a loss of life when responding to these specific tactical responses.
Okay, thank you for that, Lucas, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not aware of any specific cases where paramedics have lost a life in the context of the things that we're talking about today. I know, though, there have been a number of incidents where responders have been, in a very imperiled situation. The one that comes to mind is the Westminster Bridge attacks, which was a vehicle-based and bladed weapon, where a police officer was very sadly lost his life, Keith Palmer, and that was a very chaotic scene. And certainly the paramedics and officers I've spoken to who were directly involved that day, describe that feeling of recognizing how imperiled they were responding to that situation and how vulnerable they were in that environment, and that follows through to the London Bridge attacks and other similar episodes, particularly the vehicle-borne and bladed weapon attacks that we've seen in the UK. And peers may know, but I'm certainly not aware of any specific examples of those injured in the course of these incidents.
Okay, thank you. And Carlos, for you, I saw that, I mean, you mentioned it, the colors, the orange color that is very distinguished and very different from the police uniform. So is it protective or? No, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter sometimes, yeah. When you are in the middle of the incident, especially with when the public disorders start, in the tactical we don't have any kind of this situation, but in the public disorders we already have it, and we have some nurses and EMTs injured, minor injuries, but well, we have it because maybe it starts the crowd control from the police, and they start to shoot the balls, the other side throwing bottles, and you are in the maybe just lying down assessing a patient and something just arrives to you, right? But it's usually minor. We try to be seen and we try to be not a target, but maybe there is some kind of, I don't know, but yes, we have some incidents.
Okay. Thank you, and thank all of you. Thank you, Geoff and Lucas and Carlos and Chaim. Thank you for this great presentations. I would like now to hand over to Lisa to close this webinar and say where you can find all of these interesting issues that we will write down after the webinar. We will publish it, and then Lisa will explain where you can see it and where you can find the recording of this webinar. So Lisa, please.
Good afternoon together. Yeah, I'm Lisa, also from the KnowEMS project. I have the honor to spend a few words of advertisement of the project in the end of this session. So if you like what you have heard this evening, please join us on our webpage. You can find it in the EU Knowledge Network. Also, you can join us on YouTube, where you will find the recordings of the previous webinars in case you missed one of them. And we're also on LinkedIn. If you would like to have a certificate for attendance for your participation today, please find a link for registration in the chat, or you can use your smartphone and just scan the QR code shown on the screen right now. It will be open until next Thursday when we upload the video on YouTube as well. Our next webinar is about the implementation of changes in EMS and will take place on the 8th of May at 5 p.m. Central European Summertime, in case you would like to block it in your calendars. And I think that's it. May I give the word back to you, Itamar, for the final goodbye.
Thank you, Lisa. So like I said before, we will publish on the UCPM Knowledge Network the main issues that were discussed in this webinar, and that will be discussed soon in the experts discussion. I would like again to thank the 4 speakers and the participants who joined this webinar. Thank you very much. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the discussion on the chat, and see you next time.